give a quick testimonial of our experience with Naturopath Eden, headed by Ron Shields. Our daughter was suffering with some very aggressive eczema, developed about 4 months after she was born. It started out with little rashes and then really progressed to some very aggressive, dry, scaly spots. Sometimes the whole skin was raw, and it was really discomforting to us as parents. Of course, we tried a lot of different products. What were some of the products we tried there?
We tried everything. We tried baths, we tried homemade remedies, we tried everything that was recommended to us. We tried changing our diet.
Vino, aquifers, and we knew that if, going to the doctor, our son had eczema as well. They just prescribed steroids and things that actually don't cure the issue or help it go away. It just suppresses the immune response. So I ran into Ron at a Shabbat gathering and asked him, because I saw his presentation on eczema a few years ago, and asked him about, some help that we can receive for eczema. He recommended a cream and vitamin D probiotic drops that we administered as recommended, and we began to see immediate changes. Elena's skin was like night and day. We were definitely happy and comforted by the results. No complaints, and she's a much happier baby now. She used to always scratch, always irritated. Everything caused her eczema to flare up, and now it's a lot more comforting for us that she's not going through that same suffering.
The Bible is arguably the most enigmatic book of all time. Its depth and richness of narrative, songs, poetry, law, prophecy, and eschatology is unrivaled in its class. This text confounded many for centuries. Attributed to the divine inspiration of the Most High Yah, only a select few were privileged to be able to unravel the mysteries that lie beneath. Today, there are tons of academic gatekeepers who have been able to unlock this coded script using a variety of techniques mostly unknown to laymen. However, today this is no longer the case. Thankfully, Divine Prospect has spent 15 years playing the spook who sat by the door to gather intel on how to best approach the text and get the most objective understanding possible. He is making these techniques available to the general public in the upcoming KHM Holistic Research Paradigm for Bible study classes. For the first time, be able to read the text the way it was intended by the author to his immediate audience. Once you've been able to successfully decipher the scripture, you will then learn how to map it to modern times and yield a harvest of actual results. Sign up today by going to www.patreon.com/Divine Prospect and join the $50 tier to reserve your spot. Seats are extremely limited, so take advantage of this opportunity before it's too late. Peace and shalom.
And just like that, we back. Peace and shalom, family. This is Divine Prospect of Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. We in the building. Shout out to the KHA fam in the building. Shout out to my social media fam. Shout out to the Patreon patrons out in the building. Appreciate all your support. Thank y'all. Been having a rough couple of weeks. Starting on a new work contract and dealing with a serious death in the family, which details I may share sometime in the future. But for right now, I'm taking care of a lot of family affairs to try and get that taken care of. And that's a very devastating loss. And, I wish I could take more time off, but there's so much that needs to be done. But I did not want to abandon our YouTube family and abandon the ministry. So we here, right? Despite everything that's going on. So those of you who did reach out and extend your condolences, I appreciate that. I just threw this shirt on. I just found my shot is missing this shirt for some time. New Testament believers be like Jesus. Torah, keep it to the end. If anybody's interested in these shirts, we have the one for John, Jesus, Paul, and Peter, right? To show how all of them kept Torah in the New Testament Bible, and why Christians should do the same, right? So if anybody's interested in this t-shirt, let me know. You can email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Let us know the size that you want, the gender you want, and a shipping address so we can send you a link and you can get yours today. All right, before the Shabbat comes in. All right, so with that, I really didn't have much on my plate today, but I will talk about a couple of updates to give you a heads up on what's going on. First and foremost, I think this should be like at the head of everything. And this presentation is currently being worked on. We'll get this completed. I was going to rush and get it done today, but I say, nah, I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to work on it. So this should be fully baked by next Freestyle Friday. IUIC now is in the crosshairs. I did not pick on these brothers, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I do appreciate some of the work that these brothers do in the streets, in the community, and some of the things that they teach. I don't agree with everything they teach. I don't agree with how the organization is structured in certain areas and how certain things are done. But for the most part, I kept hands off because these brothers were doing the work, right? You know what I'm saying? I didn't really want to purposely go against them because I simply disagree. That's really not how I roll. Unless it's something egregious, like when I address GOCC and Elder Rakal talking about Yahweh or Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh or Yah is Baal. You know what I'm saying? So I had to address that. And that was earlier this year. I addressed that. But I typically try to stay away from my camp brothers and sisters because they are doing some work in the streets. They are doing some work in the community. And they do teach sound stuff, especially when they get our brothers and sisters off of drugs and out of prostitution and off of drinking and doing wild stuff in the community. So I typically keep hands off. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I was called out, and because I was called out, I got to address it. Now, if y'all been following me on social media or you've been following me on part of Patreon, you're already aware of this, right? Because I already made a post last week about this, and somebody put me on to this, and that's typically how I get involved in this stuff. Like, I really don't follow a lot of stuff. I may watch some stuff if it come across my YouTube feed, but there's other brothers and sisters out there, and shout out to other brothers and sisters. Those of you who share with me everything that's going on in the community, I appreciate y'all for that. I appreciate y'all tremendously for that, because that's how I learn about these things, so I can respond to them appropriately or maybe decide not to respond to them, right? So nonetheless, IUIC, they did a video called The Wantonness of Sin, and they mentioned me at the 1 hour and 12-minute mark, and they mentioned me for about 4 to 5 minutes, all right? Now, through the course of that, they've addressed a video that I put out that came, it's a clip that came from my KHM Houston chapter launch. So it's not like they even watched the entire chapter launch, because that's where it came from. They didn't even pay attention to the entire context of the video itself. They took it out of context. So I said, okay. So I decided to go and reach out to people I know in IUIC, send messages to leadership, which some of that will be in this presentation. Didn't get no response back. They didn't see me as significant enough, or the situation as significant enough to address it, to retract it, or excuse it, or whatever the case may be. So I'm doing a presentation, and again, this is geared towards Officer Yakub. Officer Yakub of IUIC Dallas is the one who did this video, and is the one that addressed me by name. Okay. Now, I don't know who in the congregation gave this to him, because when they told him my name, it was like he was uninformed and he didn't know who I was. It was just a video for them to critique as part of the content for the subject matter they want to speak on. And the majority of the people they were critiquing in that video towards the end were Christians, right? Or Christian leaders, Christian pastors, you know, or whatever. And they put me in the middle of that. I'm not sure how that happened. That just tells me that whoever sourced the video and gave it to Officer Yakub was totally unaware of the context of the video, totally unaware that it came from a KHM Houston chapter launch. And they just completely missed the point of the video, even though the scriptures was in the video right above my head. I put that in post-processing. So it's just interesting how they just missed all of those context cues. But nonetheless, I gave them 2 weeks to respond, about a week and a half, I think, almost 2 weeks to respond. They did not, you know, so that's fine. No problem. So what I'm going to do, or what I am doing, is creating this PowerPoint. Now, if you're on the Patreon, and if you're not, sign up, www.patreon.com/Divine Prospect. And you'll be able to see as I continue to add slide after slide after slide after slide until this presentation is complete. And hopefully it'll be done by next Freestyle Friday. If not, it'll be the Freestyle Friday after that. But I'm going to complete this PowerPoint, and I'm going to do this video, right, on YouTube. So it'll be on YouTube. I also have a couple of videos in the pike that's coming out as well. So I had a lot of work I'm working on, then personal stuff I'm working on. So it's been a lot. And the reason why you don't see me as frequently is because I got a real life outside of YouTube, right? I don't live on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So I got a real life outside of YouTube. And unfortunately, those priorities sometimes take higher priority over doing not just YouTube, but doing social media in general, right? Ministries 24/7. So even after the screen goes off, I'm still behind the scenes working in my immediate community, working with the Israelite community, working with our KHM team, staff, patrons, and all that, right? Doing counseling sessions, and been scheduled to do some speaking engagements by the end of this year. Been scheduled to do a wedding as well. So there's other things that I have going on down the pike that I'm trying to keep together and organize and so forth. But the unfortunate thing is, you know, I didn't think this day would come because IUIC has not really called me out that I know of directly in the years that I've been in this walk. And I've been in this walk since actively and publicly in this walk since 2014. I've been an Israelite identified as Israelite since 2013, but I've been actively in this walk for about 11 years. And I haven't heard IUIC say anything or make a video about me directly, right? And I do know some people in IUIC, and I know some ex-IUIC members as well that have been sharing all types of dirt with me when I actually came on Facebook and social media and say, hey, all right, it's about to get crazy. But here's the thing. I don't like to do mudslinging. I don't like the ad hominems. The dirt that was being fed to me about things going on with their leadership and going on in their camp, I don't want to address that, right? Meaning that that's not why I'm doing this. I'm not here to, you know, throw money in their face. I'm not here to speak on personal matters that I'm not an eyewitness of, etc. I'm just simply dealing right now with responding to and refuting their reference to me in this video. And if they take it there, I do have a 100-slide PowerPoint. It's about 100-slide PowerPoint dissecting their entire doctrine from A to Z. So I'm more than happy to put that out and do a 2-part presentation on it. It's going to probably be 3 hours or so. But I got 100 slides. I don't know if I'm going to even say a whole 100 slides. It's kind of crazy, but it'll definitely be on the Patreon if that has to drop, right? But the unfortunate thing is that when there's work to be done, real work to be done in the Israelite community, in the Black community at large, and in the Latino community, you know, just in general, all things going on, like, I don't want to stop my time to really do something like this. Like, this is not really what I wanted to do. But if they threw the rock and decides to hide their hand, I'm in the glass house, you know what they said. So I'm just simply responding because they put a bad name out there in regards to me. So I am just responding so I can salvage whatever degree of integrity that I maintain within the Israelite community that they attempted to sour because they just did not decide to do their homework behind the video and took the liberty to disrespect me in a plentitude of ways that will be discussed when I do this presentation. But if you're interested in seeing it, sign up for the Patreon. I already put 3 slides out. I'm going to work on more slides and we're going to go in. So that's that. All right, that's the IUIC situation. Take that out of there. Those of you interested all the time, people. Oh, what are you drinking? There you go, right here. Arden's Garden, tropical sea moss, mango, turmeric, ginger, and sea moss. Mineral rich, skin health, anti-inflammatory. I have an Arden's Garden not far from me. I like to get this. I like to get the super greens and a whole bunch of stuff. So if you're interested in that, I think you also order this online too. But yeah. So good. All right, with that being said, I want to get out the way. Now, also, I do have, since we're talking along these lines, I do have a hit list. And I think I got Marquette's name wrong. And it's not Houston. I don't know why I call him Marquette Houston. But let me see. It's Marquette Devon. Wow, why I call him Houston? But anyway, I have a hit list, and in this hit list, these are other responses that I have to make to people who have personally addressed me. And again, I never pick the fights. I just end them. I don't pick anything. I just stay to myself. I do the work unless somebody calls me out. And if you call me out, then it is what it is. So the Real Black Atheist, aka Uncle Ket, aka Brother Unc, right? I thought me and him was cool. He decided to take shots because I was selling a replica of the Ketef Hinin Silver Scrolls, and tried to take a shot at me for doing that, which is interesting because nobody in our community even cares about him. He's like irrelevant. Like to me too. I wasn't even thinking about him until you mentioned me. I was like, oh, you mentioned me? Okay, let's see what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't affect anything. So all praise to the Most High. We got those pendants and necklaces in the hands of over 110 people. So thank you so much to everybody that patronized us. We got over 100 people. I think it's about 110, a little over 100 people that we was able to sell that to, and take those funds and put it back into the services that we have, and offered free services to people who needed health and who needed debt assistance. So we paid for a paid service for them so that they can get that. So yeah, this is interesting that he decided to take shots at me, especially when I patronized him and I bought his dusty sneakers that came from China. It's supposed to be Black Power. And I got his dusty sneakers that came from China, and just slapped on red, black, and green on them joints. Instead of purchasing sneakers from a Black-owned factory here stateside in America. They have them out. I got shoes from them. Yeah, that's real Black Power. When I get to you, I'm going to do that. But you on a back burner, right? You on a back burner. Now, in regards to Marquette Devon, and that's his name, not Marquette Houston. As far as Marquette Devon, he mentioned me in passing because somebody brought my name up on one of his lives when he was getting at the Israelites. He mentioned me, disrespected me, so I addressed him in a video. I got a PowerPoint for him too if he responds, but he hasn't responded yet, so he's on a back burner as well. Also, Torah nights, I was invited to a debate on one of Soneta's conscious debate platforms on YouTube. And there's a brother on here, Davion, and he's a Torah night, where he was trying to demonstrate the pronunciation of the language. That video is on this YouTube, and I put it up, and I had premiered it last week. And I know a lot of y'all saw that. Torah Night has made several videos about me since then, in regards to the subject matter. And, even Judah, he decided to put a challenge out, I guess, if that's what it is. And I said, yeah, we could debate, set it up. So I'm letting them know out right now, right? Torah Nights, if you're watching this, for the debate, let me know, because we're going to clear this language thing up. And the only bad thing is when I do these types of debates, strays are going to be flying out. And, some brothers and sisters might get hit with those strays who's teaching stuff that unfortunately cannot be fully substantiated and cannot sustain the weight of scrutiny, right? Or AKA peer review. So anything that I do, even when I get at IUIC, it's not intended for other brothers and sisters, right? Even if you share a similar doctrine with them and I have to address it, I'm not addressing you personally, right? And if you disagree with me, that's fine. I'll be more than happy to invite you onto the show and have that conversation, right? But IUIC, knowing IUIC, if I was to invite them on the show, they would not come on this platform and discuss this. I just want Officer Yakub. I'm not dealing with Nathaniel, anybody else, just Officer Yakub, right? Send them this way. And again, IUIC is just pretty much dealing with them addressing me, but I have no problem dealing with their doctrine, especially since in 2016, after I came out publicly with the full moon is the new moon doctrine, because it was just a reconstruction of the ancient Paleolithic Israelite culture. A couple of months later, they decided to come out with the same thing. Is it a coincidence? Or were they watching me? I don't know. Who knows? That remains to be seen. But they'll never come on here to have this discussion to find out what's going on. So the Real Black Atheist, Brother Ankh, I still got you, but you on the back burner. Marquette Devon, I still got you, but you on the back burner. Torah Knights, y'all in my sites. Let me know if y'all want to debate. And IUIC, as y'all saw earlier, we got the presentation on deck and we're ready to rock. All right. So let me get that up out of here too. All right. All right. And again, if anybody's interested in the shirt, New Testament believers be like Jesus, a Torah keeper until the end, right? So we got the New Testament script, and that lines back up with the Tanakh and show you that Jesus, James, John, and Paul, when I say John the Baptist, all Torah keepers, right? So these are all figures, especially Jesus, figures that Christians hold in high regard, but don't live like how they lived, which were Torah keepers, which is interesting. Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And Jesus is supposed to be the center of all things when it comes to Christianity, but you're not living how he lived. He's a Jew. He lived in the north, but he was a Jew. He was an Israelite. When we say Jew, he was a Yehudi, right? And that's who he was. So the key thing is, if he lived like his culture dictates, then why don't you? Why are you so vehemently adversarial towards the law when that's what Jesus kept? I'm just saying, when that's what Peter kept, when that's what John kept, when that's what Paul kept, James kept. Just saying. Okay. All right. All right. With that being said, as you saw earlier, if anybody needs any debt relief, credit repair services, Jubilee Mission is here for you. So when you watch this on the replay, all you got to do is just rewind it to the beginning and you'll see us offering those services and how to contact us, which is jubileemission@gmail.com. If anybody needs any help, assistance, naturopathically, you're interested in alternatives to Orthodox medicine, we're more than happy to assist you as well. You email us at naturalpathtoeden@gmail.com. All right. So just holler at us, let us know. You can go back and watch the beginning of the video and we'd be more than happy to help you. All right. Just give me 1 second. Okay, we're back. All right. So with that being said, anytime, Derek, you can email us at Jubilee. I put it in the chat. Okay, jubileemission@gmail.com. Now, also shout out to Cosmic Sankofa in the building. What's going on, King? I actually have a couple of Clubhouse sessions that I'm going to upload as well. I'm trying to work on 1 or 2 of them this weekend and upload them. It's crazy because if you on Clubhouse, I'm mostly a guest in rooms. I rarely start rooms. I'm mostly a guest in rooms. If the replays are on, I have to ask for that recording to be sent to me. But a lot of times, whoever runs the room, I'm able to contact them or they just fail to send it over to me. So I have to record the sessions on my phone, on my computer, and then I have to edit it. And then I have to add my stuff to it. And then I have to post it. So it's a lot of effort just to get those replays to share with you. But I'm going to make an effort to try to get some more uploaded with a various amount of discussions and, angles and so forth. Because, I engage with multiple different groups on there, whether it's just a secular realm within our community, whether it's a religious realm, whether it's political realm, activism, whatever the case may be, I'm there. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. All right. So just want to make sure I put those things out. I think other than that, we're Gucci. I don't plan to stay on here too long. It's been 30 minutes already. So if y'all have any questions, I'll address some questions real quick. And then from there, I'll probably dip on out and get a head start on this evening. But if you have any questions, let me know. Let me see. Let me see if there's anything I have to share real quick. Let me see if I have anything to share. I think I have anything to share. Also on the post section, matter of fact, let me share that real quick. I can share that real quick. Let's see if we can share that. All right, 2 updates that I actually have on this channel. Let me share this. Okay, so I put this out as well. This was 13 days ago, almost 2 weeks ago. Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. Today's meditation is on the topic of formulaic prayer. If you are subscribed to our Patreon, you're aware of the full breakdown of Nehemiah's prayer and how it can be a template for us today. Click here to see the post, right? And that's to the post on the Patreon. Understanding that, how are the following prayers by Hannah, 1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 10 to verse 11, 2 Samuel chapter 1 to verse 10, King Jehoshaphat, 2 Chronicles 20, verses 5 to 12, and Daniel in Daniel chapter 9, verses 3 to 19, following the same core formula template as Nehemiah. Share your thought below, right? So I put that out there for some meditation on prayer. There was a few responses to it. If y'all are interested, when you'll go back to that link on Patreon, you'll get to see break down prayer. Because I know a lot of people say, oh, you can do a lecture on prayer. It's still in the making. But in the interim, I did a whole post on Patreon that pretty much touches on what I was going to share in the lecture, right? So it's there if y'all are interested in it. But use this as a meditation as well this weekend. If y'all have not seen this, again, stay abreast with what's going on with KHM and stuff by going to the post section on YouTube, because we do post a lot of stuff up there. And see if y'all can go ahead and take a look at these 3 prayers. Remember, we try to go back to the ancient Paleolithic Israelite culture. So this culture is before Judeo-Christianity, before that religion. And we try to see what was the native culture of the peoples during that time period, and that culture against the ancient Near Eastern backdrop, right? So we try to align these things appropriately, because prayer was never something that somebody just shot up and waited for something to happen. Threw it against the wall and see if it sticks. That's not what prayer is. Anytime somebody who was a righteous remnant prayed, they got their prayers answered. So you just got to know what prayer is and what you have to do. So the process of praying is you making an appeal before a superior as an inferior for a request that you have no power to change or no power to do anything about, right? But you want this superior, this dignitary, this patron deity to do something on your behalf. So there's things that are prerequisites that you must do in order to get the attention of the deity, in order for the deity to hear your request and empower you. You have to cooperate with the empowerment of the deity. And what the deity does is creates the opportunity. The opportunity is going to sway you or diverge you away from an unfavorable path to one that is more in alignment with whatever your ask is. But that ask that you ask has to also be in alignment with and or invoke the will of the deity to fulfill those duties. So you're not, what you're asking for must be sanctioned by the will of the deity. And the deity always requires something in return. But I say this all the time. You do not want a simple transactional relationship with the deity. That is not how this works, right? And if you attempt that, the deity may provide on occasion, but that is not the type of relationship. That's not a relational relationship that the deity would want with you, right? So I tried to break down using Nehemiah chapter 1 as an example of what this prayer system looks like. Now, Daniel and Nehemiah was during captivity, right? However, they maintain the tradition prior. That's why I share Hannah, and that's why I share Jehoshaphat, because they've also used this template, a formulaic template, to pray and get their prayers answered, right? So this is not something you just say, oh, I'm just going to throw something in the air and see what happens. No, it doesn't work that way. That's not prayer. So once you learn what prayer is, and again, if you click on the link, I break it down, and you apply that, your prayers will be answered. There's no if, or I don't know if this is going to happen. No, it will be answered. And when I started learning how to pray appropriately in alignment with the will of the deity, almost all my prayers have been answered. When I say almost all, that means some are still in progress now, right? So I know what to look for to know that this prayer has been answered and the timing in which it's going to occur. So I'm aware of that. Now, in the interim, there are things that I have to do in the interim to work in conjunction with whatever the deity is doing as far as divine intervention. But I have to work. If I'm not cooperating with and I'm not in alignment with, then nothing's going to happen. It's an active, it's a proaction. If you're not willing to be proactive and provide proactions behind what you are requesting, then nothing's going to happen. It's the same way if you go before a judge and you go before to put an appeal before the judge. It's prerequisites you must meet before the appeal can be seen by the judge. And then once the judge honors or grants what's asked for, there's stuff that you still have to do. So this work that you have to do. You can't just say, Judge, I want this, and walk away and think it's going to happen. It does not work that way. It's a whole legal process that must be done in order for you to get what you're asking the court for. And it must be within the power of the court to provide what you're asking for. You can't go to the court and say, hey, Judge, I want my wife to love me again. That's not how that works. The judge has no jurisdiction over that. There's no legal precedent that they can point to say, okay, we can adjudicate over this matter. Okay, we can provide you these remedies and recourses. It does not work that way. So it's the same way with prayer. Sometimes y'all be asking for stuff that it's like, okay, that's not what prayer is. Almost every example for the type of prayer that you would need to pray is in the text. And if you're not doing it according to the prescription within the text, then it's not going to get answered. Now, there are other deities that will answer those type of personal requests. They're out there. You can find a Babala and get one of those things addressed for you. If that's what you're looking for, you can get those things done, right? There are Loa out there that'll go ahead and say, okay. There are Rishas out there that'll go ahead and say, okay. But you do have to give Eva. You do have to give a sacrifice. You have to give other things as well, because you can't act for something and come empty-handed. It does not work that way. You must get and capture the attention of the deity in order for the deity to adjudicate over their requests. That's how it works. So this is what this process is. So I'm peppering you with these elements so you can get in tune with it before the full lecture. I'm prepping you something brand new I'm doing than what I did before. Right. So I just wanted to share this because if y'all want to, y'all can take a look at this post as well as look at it on the Patreon, how we break it down, and you can start incorporating it ASAP and you'll see how it'll work. That's why I said prayer is not some random thing that you do. That's the Christian way of praying. That's not how we pray as Israelites, somebody that's engrossed in the culture. It's not how we pray. Right. So anyway, let me go ahead and get into these questions that you're asking. Before I do, there's another post I want to share real quick. The other one was right here. So on the Patreon, also what we have in the community tab, there's a chat section. There's a direct message section, right? As you can see, I have a lot pending there. But there's a chat section. In the chat section, I created several chats, right? Biblical topics discussion, analyzing biblical passages, biblical languages discussion. You can join any one of these chats and ask questions there even after the YouTube live session is over. After this live stream session is done, I told you the after party is on Patreon. So if you have questions that haven't been addressed here, you can always go and ask them there, right? We have free chats, we have paid chats, right? So you can always go there and ask them. When I say paid chats, meaning if you have a subscription to Patreon, then you unlocks for you these additional chats. But we do have general chats on here as well that you can ask questions in that I'm more than happy to address. So if you miss anything here, you can always go to Patreon and ask it in the community section, in the chat section, and we'll address it there. If I don't address it, I have other people as part of the Patreon as patrons. They'll as equally as studied, and they will also address it for you. And this is a way where we can build that community outside of just me, right? You can build this community based on the information that we discuss, the information that we share on this channel and in KHM to better empower you in your personal walk with Yah, right? All right. So that's that. Do have another update. So if anybody is interested this year in enrolling your children in homeschooling, if you want to enroll them in homeschooling where they have virtual instructors, or if you want the curriculum to do it yourself, this is being offered. KHM has what's called the Ezra Institute. The Ezra Institute that we have is our homeschooling service that we offer. And what we do is we partner with other homeschooling academies, and we link you up with one of those academies. So this semester, we're working with a higher academy, and we're working on 2 other academies that may want to sign up later with us. But if anybody's interested in the homeschooling your children, again, we're all about autonomy, right? Homeschooling your children is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do in 2025 as an Israelite, right? It's to homeschool your children because you get to control what your children learn, and you get to filter the things that you believe is not beneficial to their personal genotype. What do you mean by genotype? So the genotype determines gene expression, phenotypes, other features, organs, internally, brain, how you think, and you get to shield them from epigenetic changes that occur when they're in a social setting in school. What does epigenetic mean? That means things on the outside trigger gene expressions that are normally dormant. Okay. For example, stress, high cortisol, right? If you live in a stressful environment, your body is going to be wired to produce a hormone that it typically tries not to. And you will be a high-strung individual, especially kids, stimulated by negative peer pressure, stimulated by things that are taught in school that they will never apply in real life, right? It's not teaching them how to be a functional adult. It's teaching them how to oil this machine, right? That does not benefit them all the time. But even so, if you want to prep them to keep them in your home environment or put them in a virtual academy or even a physical academy, that would be beneficial to do so. So all my kids go to an academy, an Israelite-owned academy, right? So they get all of their essentials and majors, and then you get the minors that are required, right? Learning about our culture, our history and stuff as well is required to graduate. So we're fully engulfed culturally in regards to the things that we teach at KHM. Just like all my kids were home birth, right? All my kids were home birth. All my kids go to a homeschooling academy, right? These are things that I live. So I can tell you how it's benefited them, right? Like my son, he's 4 years old. His birthday is in January, but he's going to kindergarten, right? So he's skipping pre-K and he's going right to kindergarten because of the type of education quality of education he's getting at the Israelite Homeschooling Academy that he's going to. So if anybody is interested in signing up for that, email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Let us know that you're interested in either putting your kid into the virtual instructor homeschooling sessions, and or if you just need the tools, resources, and books so you can do it yourself. If you're already doing that, they offer both services. So email us through the Ezra Academy. You can email us through kingdomharbinger@gmail.com, and we'll connect you, and you'll be able to sign up and get your kid enrolled, this fall semester. Okay. If anybody's interested in that. All right. Again, the way to solve the issues in the Black community is through autonomy. Here, before we get to autonomy, we have our culture, our common culture, right? Which teaches us shared values, etc., ethics, morals. From there, we're able to create a community because we have a common culture. And out of that community, we have autonomy because we learn how to rely on self. We learn how to govern ourselves. We learn how to take all matters of social, political, and economical dealings, and we internalize it amongst ourselves, So these are things that we learn. So these little services that we offer, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's midwifery, whether it's credit repair, whether it's health, all these things are things that you need in order to be autonomous. Because what this does is that it detethers you from this society, which works in opposition of our particular ethnic group. So if we're at the bottom of everything, we have to provide these services so that way we can link each other in tune with one another. And then we can create the services and the products and the goods and the programs within our communities to sustain ourselves. Because if that's the case, we will have less influence from outside oppressive forces into our affairs, daily affairs. And that is the goal. That is what we need to strive to do. So everything that we do at KHM is centered around that. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and check to see these comments that you're making. Let me get Mars Screen first. Thank you for the donation, Mars Screen. Hey, Divine, do we celebrate Day of Atonement? Isn't Yahushua our atonement? Hey, what's going on, Mars? So I don't celebrate Day of Atonement. I know some people that do in the community. The reason why I don't is because there is no physical high priest to do it in conjunction with. So there's no high priest to do that in conjunction with. Also, I teach, this is what I teach, and I've taught it on live streams before, that the Day of Atonement for the layman is a later addition. It's a later addition. So there's an element of atonement that was instituted because of the priests being unclean. So a process had to happen to cleanse the priests before they can go into that holies of holies, make intercession for Israel, and speak to the oracles of the patron deity. Eventually, that then got extended to the layman. So it's not pre-exilic. That's why I don't keep atonement. And I've taught this before, and I shared links to it. If you go to the Patreon, there's I think there's several articles that I posted on Patreon in regards to this. So that's why I don't keep the atonement. Now, in regards to Yeshua is part of the Melchizedek order. And if you read the book of Hebrews, he has done that work for those who are part of that order. So if you're a part of that order, your work is a daily work. It's just not a single day work in regards to atonement, right? Or Yom Kippur. So that's why I don't keep it. That's why we don't teach the keeping of it. But if you choose to do that for the reasons you choose to do, that's fine, right? But if you're interested in Day of Atonement, just type in KHM or Kingdom Harbinger Ministries, Day of Atonement, or go to our YouTube channel on a browser, not a mobile phone, on a browser. And there's a little search magnifying glass field, and just type in Day of Atonement, and you'll see our videos on it, and I explain it thoroughly on there. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. All right, thank you for the donation, Mars. I am Zeus says, thoughts on Lunar Sabbath? Have any teachings, discussions on posts on Patreon about it? Hot topic right now. Yes, I do have some books on the Patreon. One is called Living the Lunar Sabbath, and there's another one dealing with the lunar moon calendar, etc. So the Lunar Sabbath pretty much teaches that every particular cycle of the moon. So you get your full moon, you get your you get your full moon, and then you get your waning, which happens the following week. So every week you have a phase of the moon, which is 4 phases. So it starts with the full moon or the dark moon. Some people start with the full moon, some people start with the dark moon. If you start with the dark moon, it's going to be that dark moon on that first day. So the first day of the dark moon is your Sabbath. And then 7 days later is going to be your next Sabbath, which means it's a gibbous. And then eventually you get your full moon. And then after your full moon, you get the waning moon, right? So every day you get one of these moon cycles. It's a Sabbath. So it is not according to the 7 days of the week that we have in the current Gregorian calendar that we use today. It is fully independent on the moon phases, right? And every major moon phase is a Sabbath. That is the lunar Sabbath. Now, there are some that teach that the particular Sabbath that Jews keep today comes from the Greco-Roman period, and that's simply not true. You have to go back to the Babylonian period, and you'll see that's where that calendar, that 7th-day calendar comes from. It comes from Babylon. That is what scholars acknowledge and scholars recognize. So the form of the 7-day week and the rest on the 7th-day week, they can point to it pre-existently from where? From Babylon. Okay. When the Jews went into Babylon, that's why you got to look at those records of the Jews living in Babylon. I told you all the time about Al Yehudu, right? And those archives, because it shows you how they lived. The Jews didn't have to make no changes to their calendrical system. The only changes they made was on the days that they kept their feast. But in regards to their 7-day week, they maintained a 7-day week before captivity. And when they went in captivity, it fully aligned with what the Babylonian week was. This is why you'll see also in post-exilic texts or exilic texts, like Daniel and like Nehemiah and like Ezra. You'll hear the mention of the different months from Babylon. So Tishrei, Nisan, Adar, all of these are Babylonian names for Babylonian months, right? So you'll hear these references. Prior to that, you don't have that. We don't have these names. But when they went into captivity, they aligned what they had to what was in Babylon. The only difference was the feast days, not the Sabbaths. Now, Babylon had separate Sabbath days than the Jews did, but the 7-day week was aligned, correlated, and maintained. This is what we find from those records prior to them going in until when they went and going in. So I get the Babylonian Chronicles. You see that in regards to the Babylonian Chronicles. That's when they're first being brought into Babylon. So this argument about the lunar Sabbath, if it's not going back to Babylon and the first way that it's aligned, then you're going to be in error, because what happens? Well, when Babylon fell, the Persians took over, and the Persians assumed the Babylonian system of their calendar, their calendrical system. That's what happened. And when Alexander the Great came on the scene during the Grecian rule, he went into Babylon, he saw the Chaldean priests, and he adopted their calendrical system. And what did the Jews do? Align theirs with this new calendar that was implemented by the Greeks. And then later on, you get the Julius Caesar calendar, his implementation of the calendar. And then later on, that's when we get the Gregorian calendar. So when you're talking about the alignment of the 7th day of the week, that has been maintained over time by the Jews. The Jews pre-exilically did not follow a lunar Sabbath. Now, there's a whole conversation about it. There's been debates about it. There's been primary sources been used to discuss it. A lot of these conversations deal with the Greco-Roman system. You have to go back prior to the Greco-Roman system. I have tons of resources on the Patreon that discuss calendars. I got at least 6 or 7 books that deal with calendars and calendrical systems, right? The best one is from Sacker Stern. Goes into all the details about this, right? So it's on the Patreon. Just type in calendar and you'll see the resources up there. I also have some blogs I posted up there and some other things, right? So these things are up there, and I've shared this, and that's my perspective. I do not agree with the lunar Sabbath. It is not taught in scripture. The scriptures that are used to teach the lunar Sabbath are typically taken out of context, and I simply don't subscribe to it, right? However, I don't press any brothers and sisters that do subscribe to it. They make a good argument. That's where they stand, and this is where I'm standing. That's the impasse between me and the brothers who subscribe to the lunar Sabbath. So I wish them well in their journey. Hopefully they continue to put information out about it, and I'll let y'all judge at the end of the day. Unless I'm asked to debate it or discuss it, then I'll do that in tact and diplomacy, right? So hopefully that addresses your question, my brother. Let me know. All right. Yeah. Shout out to my brother Joseph Grimm. What's going on, King? I agree. There are brothers that are going. So all I say to them is, or like I say all the time, pull out all the scriptures that deal with a lunar Sabbath, and let's deal with those scriptures. And after they provide those scriptures and we go into it, I show them this is not about a lunar Sabbath. How? It's not about a lunar Sabbath. So hopefully that addresses that. Ron Shavat Ben Lewy says you should most def keep Yom Kippur. Facts. Okay, my brother. Hey, if that's definitely with you, That's more power to you, my brother. No problem. All right. No problem. Now, what would be interesting, I don't know if you're interested in doing it, Ron Shavat Ben Lewy. If you want to join the panel, and I can show you how Yom Kippur is something that is not mentioned pre-exilic, right? It's not in the pre-exilic Israelite parts of scripture. Outside of what we see the redaction in the book of Leviticus chapter 16. It's actually a redaction. And what you find in Leviticus chapter 23 is also a redaction. And there's ways we know it's a redaction, right? So we can definitely talk about that and look at, textual criticism. And I can show you where those telltale signs are, is that it was redacted. And then I can go into some scholarly source material to show you how Yom Kippur for the layman was a later iteration. So we deal with the ancient pre-exilic Israelite culture here, and we try to mirror what we do in our practices today, our orthopraxy of how we do things the correct way, and our halachot, all is in alignment with that ancient system that's prior to captivity. So when you get to Second Temple Judaism, you have a huge change up into Rabbinic Judaism, right? So you have shifts and changes and redactions through those two periods, right? And then you have ahistorical reinterpretations and reimaginations of the text, history, and culture during that time. It don't have to be right now, my brother. I'm not saying right now, but I'm saying if you would like to do a panel discussion, let me know. We can set up a time. We could definitely do it. No problem. All right. I understand. Enjoy your Shabbat, my brother. Do what you got to do. All right. I thank you for visiting here, as you always do, and for your support. All praise to the Most High Yah. All right. So let me see. Can you break down Psalm 82? I believe you're God's scripture. And what is your perspective on the book of Revelation? All right. So Zach Owens, this is something that I've addressed ad infinitum on this channel, but I'll do it for you real briefly. I'll go into Psalms 82 real quick. And then my perspective on the book of Revelation. I don't know what you mean when you say my perspective on it. The book of Revelation is a series of revelations that was provided to Yochanan from Yeshua Bar Yosef while he was exiled on the island of Patmos. So that's what the book of Revelation is. It's the least attested book of the New Testament, meaning that the reason why it wasn't in copy as much as the other books is because it was the least popular book, and was the least understood book of the text. When you say what is my perspective on it, I mean, it's in the canon of the New Testament, so I do address it. There is value to it, according to me. But if you ask me my personal opinion on the New Testament, the priority text in the New Testament is the book of Matthew, and not the Greek text, the Syriac text, which takes us back closest to the Aramaic text and the dialect they would have used or would have been written in by Mattiyahu in the 1st century CE. So that is, to me, that is all I need. That's the same one that all those early Jewish Christians, that scholars call them, the Nazarenes, the Ebionites, that is the book that they had as their central tenet of subscription to Yeshua Bar Yosef, is the book of Mattiyahu. That was their source, right? So later on in time, other books got grafted in until you got what's called the New Testament today. But amongst those early subscribers to the Mashiach, who they identify as Yeshua Bar Yosef, they used the book of Matthew. Why? Because Matthew was a disciple who became an apostle. Matthew also was literate and can write. He wrote both in the Greek and in his tongue, according to Jerome, a patristic source, who actually saw the text and could read the Aramaic and Hebrew. And he was also the most studied out of all of the disciples, right? Because he was a tax collector, which means he had to be very accurate, very precise with the things that he wrote, the records that he kept. And also he was working with the Romans, or for the Romans, I'm gonna say with the Romans, for the Romans, which means they were staying on top of him, pause, in regards to his accuracy, right, of tax collection. But he yielded that to go follow Yeshua, right? But when it came time to write a memoir of Yeshua, he was the one that wrote it in the tongue of those who received it in Aramaic. And then also he possibly created a Greek version, or somebody took his original and was bilingual and turned it into a Greek version. There's different perspectives on that in regards to patristic sources and modern day scholarship and consensus, right? So my priority text is the book of Mattiyahu in the OSS, right? And I've shared the OSS, the Old Syriac Sinaiticus. I shared this here before. It's on Patreon. And that is the actual New Testament text that I utilize today, right? That is only a gospel text, so only has the synoptic gospels in John. It doesn't have the rest of the New Testament. And the book of Matthew from there is the book of Matthew that I hold to, and that is the closest text that we have to those early Jews who also subscribe to Yeshua, right? Messianic Jews, right? So that's the text that most closely aligns with that, according to Arthur Vubis, according to Sebastian Brock, P. Brock, and other scholars of the Syriac text, right? So that's my position. So in the book of Revelation, just like Paul's epistles were written, and his epistles were written for the Gentiles, non-ethnic Jews. That is not a priority of mine. There's wisdom in it, there's information in it. So I take it, receive it. I treat it just like I treat the Apocrypha. Apocrypha is not canonical work, but there's information and there's wisdom in it that I take and absorb, right? So there's some inspiration through it, but is it fully inspired? I don't see it as such. Is it a priority to those who subscribe to Yeshua? I don't see it as such either. But Revelation is a good book that teaches that in the end times, the dragon is coming after the woman and after the woman's seed. The woman being Israel, the woman's seed being the Messiah. And it says those who keep the testimony of Yeshua and hold to the commandments, that is who he seeks to war with. So I think that's a great summary because it aligns with the Targum of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15. In the Targum, talks about King Messiah, right? And it talks about the Israelites, those of the seed of Jacob, those who keep the commandments, stomp on the head of the serpent, but those who don't are bitten at the heel by the serpent. And this is going to occur until King Messiah comes on the scene. So the New Testament was influenced largely by the Targumim, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. In regards to Psalm 82, let me break that down for you real quick, and then I'm going to transition to the other questions in the chat. So just bear with me, y'all. Let me try to get through as many as I can before I close out. Okay. Psalm 82. It's a very common text. There's a lot of perspectives on it, but some say, oh, these were Israelite judges. These are not Israelite judges. No, because people who say that don't read it within its historical context. They read it ahistorically, and they insert things there and impose things there that cannot be validated historically. Because when you read the book of Psalms aligns the language, the idioms, the syntax aligns a lot with the Ugaritic text. I gave you a source for a website suggestion on the Patreon called the Intertextual Bible, and it showed you these associations, these allusions, and these word for word phrases that are shared between both the Psalms and the Ugaritic text, right? And the Ugaritic text also helps to resolve some linguistic glosses in the book of Psalms as well, right? So going into Psalm 82, all right, and it says, God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of the gods, he holds judgment, right? So this is the key thing. When this starts off, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the Most High and human judges? Or are we talking about the Most High and the divine council? Now, Rabbinic Judaism would say this is referring to human judges, whether that's throughout the earth, whether that's in the Sanhedrin, similar to a Sanhedrin or council, a Beit Din within Israel. They say it's human judges because they take the supernatural element out and the acknowledgement of other deities, right? But that is not historically accurate. The language here aligns a lot with Ugarit, and you'd have to be a student of Ugarit and Ugarit literature to see the correlations, okay? And you correct, Aaron Jeshua, Shalom King. All right, so let's take a look at it, right? So let's go here. I try to walk with y'all, show you where we're at. We have a Mizmor Le'Asaf. So a Mizmor Le'Asaf, Asaf is who is writing this, and a Mizmor is a psalm that's written by him. Elohim Nisav. So the Nisav, when we say Nisav, we have this nun prefix with this hirik, ni. This will tell us that we are dealing with a nithval stem. We also have the kamet underneath the second root radical. So all of this nun here with this hirik And this comments here, we're dealing with a nifal, which is the passive. So the nisal, which means that the stand is taking place to the subject, which is Elohim. But we'll see here, this Elohim, which is a masculine plural noun, is actually referring to the Most High Power, right? So it's dealing with what we call the majestic plural, and we'll see why when we continue to read. But when we take a look at this word for stand, we have nasav. So natsav, some say we get the root nasav. And nasav means to be appointed, to establish, to set a precedence over, to be a deputy over, to be in charge, something that's erected, pause, right? To station something or oneself. So Most High, this Elohim is taking a stand the same way that a judge in a courtroom takes his stand. This is the same thing that's happened to the deity, but it's a nifal participle, right? Well, he's taken a stand, right? Or a stand is taken by him, okay? Ba'adat. So ba'adat is in the congregation, right? So what do you mean? With the congregation of what? Well, this is what we call the feminine construct, right? Because we have the final ta there with no dagesh in the middle, and we have the ta here. So this is a construct, which means it's almost the English equivalent of, right? The congregation of, and then you have here the noun that is associated. We call it the possessive, which is el, of the divine. It says of the divine, but this just simply says el. A plural entity cannot stand in the midst of a singular entity, but a singular entity can stand in the midst of a plural entity. So how this should be translated is, this is the majestic plural referring to the Elohim that we see in Genesis 1 or elsewhere through scripture. And the El represents a collective noun, right? Or like the word team or corporate or corporation or something like that, right? That's a collective noun. We have Bekerev. So Bekerev, which is among Elohim, the gods. There's no prefix ha here, but in regards, in amongst or amidst, in the midst of powers. So the same word here, Kareb, look in Genesis chapter 2, and you'll see something very interesting. The gods Yishpot, the gods that he judges, Yishpot. So he judges, right? So it says Elohim. So some say, oh, this Elohim here, it means, again, they'll say, oh, it's judges. Well, we see Elohim here. That's the first Elohim used is the majestic plural, referring singularly to the Most High God. And then the El over here is referring to what we say is a divine council of gods, a collective noun. Then it says, among the gods, he judges. Well, what's the gods? Well, the word Elohim here is used here. And this masculine plural noun should go in connection with this masculine singular noun, which is very interesting when we see the relationship between it and we break down the context. This is referring to these gods here. So he's standing in the congregation of these gods, and he's judging either the same gods that he's amongst, or he could be judging lesser gods that are assigned to different spheres of influence in the earth. This is where some say, oh, these could be judges. Well, they're not human judges. And we're going to see within the context. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Selah. Let's pause. That's literally pause in Hebrew. I will start saying Salah now when I say things. And we looked at what takes a stand means and says erect. I'm going to say Salah. Salah is the new pause if you're an Israelite. So make sure you say Salah, right? It says, how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Now, again, in the translation, as you can see, this is in quotation. So Asaph is saying this to somebody. Is he saying this to the God of Israel? Heck no. Why would he be talking to the God of Israel like that? He's saying this to these guys that are being judged by the Most High God. And it says, give justice to the weak and the fatherless, maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. All of these elements is the central core tenets of Torah. Torah is all about protecting these second-class individuals, right? The afflicted, the destitute, the weak, the fatherless, okay? The stranger, the widows, These are protected classes within the community because of their weaker classes, second-class citizens within Israel. However, this was also something that regards hospitality. Hospitality is a central tenet that all nations prior to Israel coming on the scene were already supposed to be instituting. But when we get to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 and 9, when it shows that all these nations were carved out and boundaries were set according to the sons of God, which is this divine council, their role was to ensure this. This is why the psalmist Asaph is speaking this to all these lesser gods that's ruling over these nations. If you want to see proof of a God that's in charge of a nation, is right. I'll give you, there's plenty of them in the scripture, but I'll give you one right here, right? Judges chapter 11. Right here, verse 24. Will you not possess what Chemosh, your God, gives you to possess, and all that Yotewafe, our power, Elohim, has given, has possessed before us, we will possess? So it says here, when you get to Ammon, that's what we're dealing with, the Ammonites, their God is Chemosh. Chemosh is part of that divine council. We also see in the Misha stele, Misha mentions his god Chemosh. Okay, so Chemosh is the god of the Ammonites and the god of the Moabites, right? And you have Milcom. Milcom is also the god of the Ammonites and the god of the Moabites. They have their own god. When we go here to Micah chapter 4, for all the peoples walk each in the name of its God, but we will walk in the name of Yah Eloheinu, right? Yotewafe, our power forever and ever. So their God is likened to the God of Israel, meaning that it's an ontological, ethereal entity. So the other nations has gods. So Psalm 82, the Most High, is in the midst of the divine council, judging in the midst of these other gods. Now we have somebody accusing the other gods. Now, this is a testimony. This is Asaph testifying while this court session is taking place. He is appealing to the Most High God, the God of Israel. And he's given this testimony about these other gods where judgment is being held against these other gods. This is Asaph saying this, right? Asaph saying this, right? It says, they have neither knowledge or understanding. They walk about in darkness. All the foundation of the earth are shaken. So now he testifies against these guys being judged, right? These other powers that we see in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8, who are being given rule and reign over territories, people groups, etc. And he says this, how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? And then he adds more information. They have neither knowledge nor understanding, meaning that he's not talking about the singular entity, Yotewafe or Elohim. He's talking about these other powers over the nations. He says, I said, you are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. This is not talking about human judges, because then he says, nevertheless, like men, you shall die. Well, if they were men, he would never need to say this. But to say an entity that is supernatural, that's ethereal, that's ontological, outside of the terrestrial experience that we go through, that they will die like a man because they were designed to be immortal, that means they have a timely end when they're judged, and they're going to fall like any prince. So most princes rule for a short period of time, or even kingdoms, and then they're taken down. And so he gives his final appeal to this one up here that's judging, who's standing in the midst of the divine council, right? The congregation of the El, right? The collective noun. In the midst of the gods, he's holding judgment. These are the gods that's being judged that Asaph is talking about. And then when we get down here, he says, arise, O God, judge the earth. What you mean, judge the earth? For you shall inherit all nations. Oh, you see, this is talking about having this talking about earthly judges. No, he's saying judge the earth, because where these things are taking place at is in the earth as a result to these other powers not properly doing their job of maintaining this central key tenet that all nations should be following. For you shall inherit the nations. And we know that the God of Israel in the end will inherit all the nations, right? So all the people are going to be coming to him, like we just saw in Micah chapter 4, to learn the law on Mount Zion, right? So that is how this should be understood. Now, there's a quotation from Jesus or Yeshua Bar Yosef in Yochanan 10, John chapter 10, where he quotes this. And what happens is, because people misinterpret this, they misinterpret what Jesus is saying. When Jesus is speaking, he's quoting this. He's not telling the people he's talking to that you are gods. He's quoting this from out of Psalms to make a point about himself. Because according to the New Testament, he's the agent that the Most High is going to use to inherit the nations, meaning that he's going to get a Davidic king to rule over the nations. And the appropriation of that Davidic king, according to the New Testament, is Yeshua Bar Yosef. Okay. So hopefully I answered that for you thoroughly. I'm going to move away from that, my brother. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. All right. So shout out to Aaron Jeshwan, Shalom King. Peace and blessings, Mom. I'm not sure if I asked you this before, but would you agree with the view that the infancy narratives lack historicity? Yes. So the early Jewish Christians, the text that they had typically started with the genealogy of Yeshua. Some had it, some didn't, but then they opened up in Matthew chapter 3. So there's no infancy narrative, right? None of that is there in the earliest Aramaic text. It's there in the Greek text. It's not there in the earliest Aramaic text. But what happens is, over time, when Aramaic goes out of usage for literature, because not much literature is written in Aramaic, it's mostly written in Greek. Then you have some translations from the Greek and other languages. But the attestation from patristic sources and scholars is that these early texts from these Jewish Christians lacked any infancy narratives. That's why when people use the infancy narrative from Matthew and compare it with Luke, and they see some things that are not congruent and that don't agree, sometimes they not sometimes, but they also see it in the lineage of Luke that differs from Matthew. Matthew would take the precedence because Luke was not a disciple, nor was he an apostle. Luke is a tertiary source that got his information from the research he did amongst the apostles and Paul. So anything in regards to Yeshua historically has to be fact-checked against the book of Matthew, because that's the one that those early Jews that we see in Acts chapter 21, zealous for the law, but also subscribers to Yeshua, right, as the Mashiach, that's the text that they would have held. So the infancy narratives is something that came later over time, right? All right. So More Benjamin, did you see the discussion I had with brother Yoshiyahu on Clubhouse? If not, I'm going to post this. I'm going to post that Clubhouse. One of the Clubhouse videos I need to post so you can get more insight into this. So hold fast to this. And that word is blessed. It is not the word. It's not curse. It is the word blessed. When Job's wife told him, why don't you bless Yah and die? And we had a whole debate over Job chapter 2, verse 9. All right. But you'll get some good insight into that if you go back and check that out. I'll be sure to upload that. And when I upload it, you'll be able to get some insight into that as well. All right. All right. Let's go to Psalm 22. Psalm 22 is talking about Yeshua or Messiah in general, or is it talking about David? Thanks, brother. So Derek Kimball, excellent question. I always recommend people go back and take a look at I'm a little tired, slow to respond. Mental and verbal acuity is going to be delayed a bit. P. Oh my gosh, I forget what this. P. Amherst 63. That's what it is. Wow, I'm tripping. All right, P. Amherst 63. All right, I'm gonna give this to y'all to research. I have it on the Patreon. So sign up for the Patreon, www.patreon.com/Divine Prospect. I'll post it in the chat. And the reason why I'm putting this up here is because in P. Amherst 63, this is a version of Psalm 22 from a perspective that does not include Zion, does not include a king, and does not include any reference to a Messiah. So what we got in the text we have today is a Judean version of Psalm 22. And the version that we get in P. Meher 63 predates the version of Psalms 22 that we have in the text. So the Psalms 22 we have in the text has been redacted to include a king, redacted to include Mount Zion, redacted to include all these elements which would lead or point to a Messiah, right? So Psalm 22 has been extended to Yeshua Bar Yosef, but in its immediate context is referring to David, right? It's another conversation in itself, but you got a historical perspective and you have a perspective that progressed over time into a Messiah figure outside of David, because David didn't fully fulfill Psalm 22, right? But prior to that, there's a version of Psalm 22 that had none of that in it. And that is the one that we need to look at in a pre-exilic position to acknowledge that this one is earlier, and then later, when certain events started occurring, the Jews went back and redacted some of the scriptures to be inclusive of a Messiah that will soon come and deliver them from their political enemies and their oppression and captivity. All right. All right. Let me see. Yeah. I'll take both of them. Pause. Judah, Nats, and Devion. Let them know that I'll do a handicap match, a 2 verse 1. So put that in their comment section and all of that. Yirmiyahu, you'll be my representative on this towards them. David Ben Yochanan. Let them know that I'll do a handicap match, me against both of them. All right. Let me see. Yeah, so Baith Maazan Network, Shalom Achmore, no contention here, of course. So you go by full moon. Yes, full moon is my new moon, but go by each Sabbath being Saturday. Asking for clarity. Yes, so the Sabbath day begins Friday at evening and concludes Saturday at evening. So these are relative time frames. We don't go with 6 p.m. We don't go with 8 p.m., 5 p.m. We go based on empirical observation of the sun setting, right? Which will provide with you 3 types of twilight. You have your astronomical twilight, your nautical twilight, and your civil twilight. So they go one way and they go the other way, depending if the sun is setting or if the sun is rising, right? So when the sun sets today, which is, I think, 8 something, that begins the 7th day of the week, which is a full 24 hours, or from sunset to the next sunset. In that period, there's a Shabbaton, and that on, diminutive, is a period within that 7th day. That 7th day of 24 hours is the period within that portion of that day, that full day. There's a period of time within that full day in which rest is to be had. And Exodus 16 shows us that is from sunrise to the sun waxes the hottest, all the way into the evening. That is when they are to rest and no longer go out and gather manna. Exodus 16 defines the Sabbath and how the Sabbath should be kept on the 7th day. And that 7-day week, when the Jews went into Babylon captivity, they carried that over and it aligned with each day of the week in Babylon, right? And that's why when I talk about this situation dealing with the lunar Sabbath, I say that what we keep today as Saturday, it goes all the way back to Babylon. It doesn't start with the Greco-Romans. The Greeks stole this from the Babylonians, right? All right. Yes, you're 1,000% right on that, brother. So Ron Shavat Ben Levi, let me post a link in the chat. Maybe I can find one real quick, brother. Let me see if I can get it real quick. It's on the Patreon. I gotta look for it, but let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? Yeah, here's some notes that I made on it, but this is not the article that I want to share, but I'll share some of this with y'all. Yeah, here's some of this. Let's see if I can find the article. Is this it? No, let me see. Let me just put the tone. Let me see if I could find it. Atonement. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can't find it, that's okay. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find it right now. That's crazy. But it is on the Patreon. Let me see if I can find it. So I want to show you because this actually lays out my perspectives. So I want to make sure I get all of it. And I want to make sure I provide it. I can't find it right now. What I'll do is when I find it, my brother Ron Shavat, I will post it on the post. It might even be there on the community post. And you can take a look at that. Okay. Yeah. Yep, that's it. Yes, I understand that, brother. I understand that's your position. Thank you, Jay Showtime TV, for the donation. Shalom Divine. What's your opinion on John the Baptist being Elijah? John the Baptist is not a reincarnation of Eliyahu. Okay, he's not. So when it says, if you believe it, that he is Elijah, this is what Yeshua says. He's not saying that he's physically Elijah come back from wherever he was at. He was taken up to the heavens, Shemayim, in a chariot of fire, right? This is not that same person. He has the same portion as Elijah. Same way Elisha had the same portion of Elijah. His job was to prepare the way for the Messiah to come on the scene, who was believed by the New Testament authors to be Yeshua Bar Yosef. That was his job. So he was acting in the capacity of Elijah, preparing the way, right? As we see in the book of Malachi and the Tanakh. So he's not, reincarnation is not a biblical doctrine. It is something that comes much later that then is read in retrospect into the text. All right. I also have that post up now as well. That post is also on YouTube, on this YouTube channel. Again, you got to do the search in the search box on the post section. And you'll see where I talk about reincarnation. Just type in reincarnation and I address it there. Go into the Patreon, type in reincarnation. I address it there as well. All right. Okay. Let me see. All right. So I've addressed this also in the past, but no problem, Will. Shalom. Can you go into the marring of the beard? Specifically, why is a lineup not breaking of the law? Leviticus 19:27. Thanks in advance, brother. All right. So the marring of the beard is not talking about you shaping up your beard. Right. I get my beard shaped up. When I say shaped up, I get it lined and then I get scraggly hairs clipped off. Right. That's not the marring the beard. And why do I get a shape up on my beard when brother says scripture says don't mar your beard or the size of your head? Well, it's referring to something that was being done in Canaan that the Most High is advocating for them not to do. Right. So he wanted them to be a set apart people. So there were things, a Kodesh people. And in order to maintain that set apartness, they could not do the customs that was in the land. They were specifically told, do not imitate the customs that are in the land. one of the customs in the land was the beard would be shaved. All of this would be shaved off there with a flint knife, right? It'd all be shaved off. And then one would take that same knife and mar his face so that the beard does not grow back appropriately. You start to develop keloids and scarring that prevents the beard from growing appropriately. Okay. That's what it talks about, marring the sides of your beard. How do we know that? It is in the Ugaritic text, which represents, or the most fully extant literature that represents the customs of the Canaanites. So let me show it to you real quick. I get that for you real quick. Okay. All right, let me see if I can get that for you. I'm going to search here. All right, let's see. Got the exact line, but it's KTU. KTU 1. That's the Epic of Baal. Let's see. Man, I can't find nothing today. So he's mourning Baal in the Epic of Baal. He's mourning him. And he does this ritual, this mourning ritual. I think I got it here. Let me find it here. Let's do this. All right, I'm trying to get this for you off the whim. Yeah, I'm gonna have to post that one too, but it's on the Patreon. Just type in Baal. I'm trying to see if I can find it in my drive and I can share the link, but I can't pull it up right now. So I'm just gonna move past that real quick. But that's what it's in reference to the morning rites that is performed by El in the Epic of Baal, which is KTU 1. That's the designation for that epic, where Baal is killed by Mut and taken to the underworld. El hears about it, finds out about it, and then he shaves his beard and mars his face, right? So this is what the Most High Yah did not want the Israelites to do, right? So that's what that is in reference to. And I've taught this on here before with the reference in front of me, but I don't have it at this point right now, all right, at this stage right now. Let me see. That's it. Yes, you are correct. Let me go grab it. Okay. So that's Leviticus 19:27. This is why we work together as a team. If it's here, I think it's here. Yes. That's footnote 28 right here. Now, what I can do to make it clearer is I'll pull up the same book right here. This is the 101s. In case this is the 101s, right? This is one of the 101s, our 101 packet, right? I'm gonna pull that up here on the screen because this actual book here, you can check it out from my library on the Patreon. It's there, right? Brother came in the clutch. Good looking. All right. So here it is. Let me look it up. Let me get it. All right. I'm gonna share it real quick. Right. It's right here. Do not cut your bodies for the dead. Lacerating oneself in mourning was a heightened expression of sorrow. In the Ugaritic Baal cycle, when the chief god El learns about Baal is dead, he goes into paroxysms of grief that emphasize the magnitude of the catastrophe. The catastrophe. Wow, tripping. He pours dirt of mourning on his head, dust of humiliation on his cranium. For clothing, he is covered with a girded garment. With a stone, he scratches incisions on his skin. With a razor, he cuts cheeks and chin. He harrows his upper arms, plows his chest like a garden, harrows his back like a garden in a valley. In the Achat legend, professional mourners cut or possibly bruise their skin. An Akkadian text from Ugaritic describes persons who lacerate themselves on behalf of a dying righteous person. Tattoo marks. Unlike the first part of the verse, tattoos are not associated with mourning rites. The use of tattoos is evidence from early in the biblical period. Some Egyptian mummies display them. Many simply feature geometric patterns, but some have portrayals of gods or the names of gods. They were at times used to mark someone's loyalty to a particular god. In Mesopotamia, most known tattoos are slave markings, though there are also known examples of priests receiving marks to designate the god they serve. It can therefore be concluded that tattoos are likely banned not just because of what they do to the body, because of what they communicate about a relationship to a deity. Excuse me. So that's it right here. KTU 1. You go through the rites and the ritual that he goes through, that El goes through when he loses Baal, who is in the Ugaritic text the Most High and his son, right? So that's very interesting parallel, but that's where that comes from. All right. Okay. All right. So Shaswini, Yes, if you're interested in baptisms, KHM, we provide baptisms and we provide an entire ceremony with a certificate. So if you're interested in getting some merch to come into the Melchizedek order, I'll be more than happy to perform that right, me or my associates. You can contact us at divineprospectkhm@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat. All right. You can email us there. Anybody's interested in getting baptized, we're more than happy to accommodate. Email us there and we'll share the details with whoever's interested. Okay. All right. Let me see. If I donate in the chat, does Divine receive payment or does YouTube get it? I'm trying to donate to Divine. Thank you so much, Mick Charles, for that. We appreciate the donations and the contributions. So when you donate through the super chat, then YouTube does take 30% of that, right? I get 70% that then cycle into the ministry, right? For funds available in the ministry. So if you want to donate directly to us, go in the description below, and there's a square link that you can use to donate to us. You can use Cash App. You can do PayPal. All those options are in the description below. So choose one of those options if you want to donate directly to the ministry. Now, if you want to donate to me, the best way to donate to me is to go to patreon.com/Divine Prospect. If you subscribe there, I get those funds personally, and I provide in exchange for those funds a repository of information, resources, etc. So those funds go to me, but anything else that gets donated outside of Patreon, it goes to the ministry, right? So if you want to donate directly to me, the best way to do that is signing up for the Patreon. If you want to donate to our ministry so we can continue to provide services and programs to the community, as well as resources when people have a need, like they lost their house, they lost their job, they need a bill paid, they're trying to move or transition, or whatever the case may be. We also use some funds to help somebody bury their loved one, right? Those funds, they go directly to the ministry, which is the square link that you can donate to, the Cash App link, which you can donate to, and the PayPal link all go to the ministry, but the Patreon goes directly to me. So you can definitely sign up for the Patreon because your ROI, as soon as you subscribe, you get a host of 12,000 posts with a range of resources and academic blogs, articles, books, language courses, videos, stuff that's not even shown on here. You get all of the access to all of that by signing up for the Patreon. So the best way to give to me directly is the Patreon. I manage that, and that's my portion as a subsidiary of KHM. But if you want this to go to KHM so we continue to provide services and programs and products for the community, then you can donate through those other options that I said that's listed below in the description. All right. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate the donation and your desires to donate. To all others, please keep us in your prayers. If you want to donate, we'll take donations as well. We appreciate that. Or if you can pay it forward to somebody for something you learned here, we'll give it to somebody else that you know that may need it in your immediate community. Right. We're okay with that as well. All right, so I'm going to wrap up now. Thank you, y'all, for checking in. My family is home now, so it's going to be a lot of distractions. So I'd rather close up here. But again, if anybody's interested in our credit repair, debt elimination services, you'll see in the beginning of this live stream that I actually have a small commercial on it. Same thing with health. If you're interested in getting alternatives to health as opposed to the allopathic method, we provide that service here as well. And also, we're restarting our classes soon. So be sure to sign up on the Patreon, select the $50 tier to get automatically enrolled into the classes and get access to the previous classes that we had and the resources that we have as well that will help you for the future classes. All right. That's the $50 tier on the Patreon. All right. So thank you so much for your time, family. I love y'all. Thank you for the questions. We learn together, right? I don't know everything. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. But I require assistance from those of you on the chat. Thank you so much, my brother, IUIC Code, for the alley-oop resource. I appreciate that. And I love y'all. And I thank you as well. Enjoy your Shabbat. And if you have any additional questions, join the community chat on Patreon. We got a free one there. We got the pay ones on languages and stuff like that. Join the chat so we can continue this conversation once we go offline. All right. Love you, family. Thank you for watching. Peace and shalom. Shalom, shalom, family.